Hey neighbors, this is Kaden Manning, your resident funky food coach. Many of you are receiving your first ever harvest box this week, and so I want to be the first one to welcome you to the community, walk you through what to expect, and talk a little bit about the resources that we make available to every single one of our good and gracious neighbors. Now, of course, the harvest box, that's the main event, and so you'll see that every week when you receive one of these, you're going to have a few consistent items, but for the most part, you're going to start seeing brand new fruits and veggies every single week when you open up these boxes. And the reason for that is that eating locally actually means eating seasonally. And we have a bunch of different types of foods that grow here in our lovely San Diego during all different times of year. So let's talk a little bit about what you can expect and the different resources to make sure that you know how to identify everything that's in your box. Now, when you first open up your box, you are going to see this lovely little insert up on top. So let's take a look at that insert and see how it's going to help you navigate your harvest box. So we like to cover the front and back with a lot of updates on our community, different events that we're going to be having, as well as the different fun samples from local providers and local farmers that might be in your box. So definitely check those out. But really your map to what's inside is going to be on the inside here. And you'll see that there's a lot of different information in your fold out. We have a letter from Mia, our founder, up here. We have a seasonal harvest chart so that you know what foods to expect during different times of year. And we have, of course, up over here, we actually have a checklist for you. Now, I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about the checklist. This checklist is going to divide all of the contents of your box up into the different types of foods. And you'll see that the different foods that are in your box are actually going to be checked off by hand. So you can see that we have a bunch of items ticked off on the checklist here. Now, let's go ahead and take a look inside the box and see if we can identify a lot of these different types of fruits and veggies. Now, when we go ahead and open up the box, we have a little sample on top here. That's fabulous. When we go ahead and open up the box, the first thing that you're going to see on top, and I want to give you a quick look at this, the first thing that you're going to see on top will be herbs. Now, you're going to be getting a lot of vegetables. We want them to taste great too. So we're going to be giving you a few herbs each and every week. This week, it looks like I have rosemary and lavender, so that smells amazing. I can't wait to use those. And then underneath the herbs, that's where we're going to find our greens. And I'm going to fold this down so that you can take a quick look at this green bag here. Now, I know what you're thinking. Don't worry, this is actually a biodegradable bag, so put it in your compost or in your trash. It'll be gone in a few months. But inside the bag, this is where you're going to find all of your leafy greens. Now, we love greens here at Good Neighbor Gardens. So you can expect, about 4 different greens each and every month. And those will be things like mustard greens, or perhaps you'll be getting brassica leaves, which are basically broccoli leaves. You'll also see things like kale, and I also have a bunch of celery in there as well. Now, the really great thing about these greens bags is that they will actually keep all of your greens nice and fresh until you're ready to use them. So you can pull this bag right out of your box and you can put it right into your refrigerator, and it's going to keep those greens nice and fresh until you're ready to eat them. Perfect. All right, and then the layer underneath the bag of greens, this is where you might find a few funky foods or some of those kind of more seasonal items. So those might be things like berries, or perhaps you'll have a bag of mushrooms in here as well. You can see we have some really great mushroom farmers, so those might be in the mid-level. You'll get some of these kind of fun, funkier foods right in the middle there. And then on the bottom of your box, this is where you're going to find those heavier objects. So you might get things like root vegetables, or you might even get a bunch of citrus if it's the season for it. So this is where all of those heavier objects are going to be right at the bottom. Now, every time you get a harvest box, we are actually going to aim to give you about 15 to 18 different types of foods each and every week. So keep an eye out for that. And see if you can kind of compare with your checklist and start to identify all of these fun local fruits that you're receiving. Now, occasionally, as I mentioned, we do have samples from different local providers in there. So take a look and see what you can find for all of those samples. They'll usually be hidden throughout the layers of your box as well. Perfect. So we've talked a little bit about the checklist and where to find everything in your box. Let's talk a little bit about the final resource that we have available to you. And right below that checklist, you're actually going to see my lovely face and just a little bit about me. So as I mentioned, I am your funky food coach. And not only am I providing a suggested recipe each week that you can find right next to your checklist, I also am going to be providing regular resources to help you make the most of all of these kind of strange local foods that might be coming in your box. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is actually going to be regular weekly YouTube videos. And those videos are going to be freshness tips, creative cooking ideas, basically, just information to kind of help you, know what to do with all of these foods once they come in your harvest. Now, I want to make sure that you're making the most out of all of that. Now, the second is actually a series of beautiful Good Neighbor Gardens Pinterest boards. And this is a library of recipes that I am constantly adding to based on recipes that I make for myself using my own harvest box. And what I really want to do is I want to create an online space, an online community for us where we can come and we can search for, nutritious, great tasting, low cost, and easy to make foods and recipes, so that if you pull something out of your box, you don't know what to do with it, you can go onto our Pinterest board, you can search by ingredient, and you're going to get a bunch of different ideas. And rest assured, everybody, I am not a professional chef. I'm not a fancy cook. I am a regular good neighbor, just like you guys. So anything that's on there, if I can make it, I assure you that you're going to have no problem making it as well. And one final piece, if you ever need to brainstorm, or maybe you want some individual funky food advice, you can actually reach me at funkyfoodcoach@goodneighborgardens.com. I check that email every day at lunchtime. So if you ever pull something out of this box, you're not really sure what to do about it, you can shoot me a message and I will reply the next day with a bunch of different recipe ideas or food advice for you. So with that, I hope that you're feeling excited to join the Good Neighbor Gardens community. I hope that you're feeling excited to start cooking locally with all of this food that's coming from your neighborhood gardens. How exciting. So we are so very excited to have you as our newest good neighbor. Happy eating.